Hi there, this is Samuel Janvier. I am the vocalist and keyboardist for Black Hole Bears, an alternative band in Denton, and I'm here to break down some of the old bands that are mentioned in our song Old Bands. So the song Old Bands is about moving on from the past, and I took the names of some of the former groups that we were in and basically used them as a framework. But these are actual names of bands that some of our members were a part of. So I'll start with the ones that I was not a member of and can give you a little bit about, and then I'll go into the ones that I was a part of. So we'll start with Alfredo, our guitarist. Alfredo's bands are Rosebush Lane and Peach Salsa. Rosebush Lane is the first one mentioned. It existed for roughly about 2 months. They didn't play any shows, but they rehearsed and wrote together at a guy's house. So not much on Rosebush Lane exists. And in Peach Salsa, they did play one show, but they were a jazz band, and they were actually formed specifically for that show. So after the show was done, they didn't play anything else, and they only rehearsed for about a week, maybe 2 weeks at tops. Robert, our bass player, he has 4 bands that I mentioned. The first being Hydroelectricity, which was around in Arkansas for several months. Then there was Sound Survival, which still exists in some form, but is also in Arkansas currently. And the last 2 are Paradox and Paradox 2. So Paradox existed for about a year and a half. They broke up, went, let's get back together. And then they went, oh, we'll be Paradox 2. So that's why in the song I say both Paradoxes 1 and 2, because there were 2 bands named Paradox, and one did have 2 at the end. So for the bands that I was a part of, I'll do them in order that I was in them. So the first band that I was ever in was Backseat Driver, and so we were pretty much exclusively a cover band. I don't think we ever actually wrote anything. And we only played 2 shows, I would say, but they were talent shows at our middle school and high school. And you can find some videos of us on YouTube, I think, still. The next band that I was in was like the actual first band, I would say, really. And that's Ricardo Lopez and the Revolvers. We were active from 2013 to 2014, and then from late 2015 to early 2017 again. So it was me, Ashton Bokris, and Taylor Hearn. Originally, we broke up when Taylor was graduating because he was a year older than us. When I moved back from university, we decided to start making music again. So in early 2015, we recorded like a demo of a song called Silver and Gold. And the whole thing with Ricardo Lopez is that he's a guy who tried to kill Bjork in the 90s. So we made a band about him. And all of our songs, for the most part, were pretty much, like most of the songs were about him, or from his point of view. So Silver and Gold is about him deciding that he's going to build this bomb that he made that was going to kill Bjork by spraying sulfuric acid on her face, which is the real thing that you can read about in Wikipedia. And a bunch of the earliest Black Hole Bear songs came from Ricardo Lopez, and we just retooled them. Then we became Mr. Bear for a little bit because Taylor graduated, and we were like, a silly name, we needed to get a different name. But Bear is spelled B-A-R-E. And we had a Facebook photo that was like us shirtless, looking into each other's eyes really intensely. We never played a show. I think maybe we played one talent show, but they didn't introduce us as Mr. Bear. We did a cover, and we didn't write any new material. It was all the same material, just Ricardo Lopez. Eventually, we were like, I guess we're not doing anything with this, and then we went back to the Ricardo Lopez name. The next project that I was in was The Polarity. So that was started by Taylor Hearn, who I mentioned earlier. He was the drummer for Ricardo Lopez for a while. So this was his project that he had started in high school, and I was a bass player from 2016 to 2017. We played at UT Longhorn Late Night when it was still a thing. I don't know if it exists anymore, but that's how I joined the bands. They needed a bass player to go to UT, so I got to learn some songs, went out to Austin with them right after I had left UT, so it was kind of nice just going back not as a student. And yeah, that was a really fun thing. I was with them for about a year. And the last band that I mentioned in the song is Moonbeam Machine. So Moonbeam Machine isn't exactly a band, it's just a name that I use on SoundCloud, where I dump like my demos and my goofy stuff that I just feel like making. So you can find really pretty acoustic stuff. You can find weird, bad songs like LTS I Really Don't, which is only me saying I really don't like the Smurfs over and over again for 40 seconds. That's pretty good. But we never played a show. I've never played a show as that. Hopefully one day there is a release under that name, but I don't know when that would be. Alright, let's move more current day and let's talk about the formation of Black Hole Bears. So Black Hole Bears, like I said earlier, kind of came off of Ricardo Lopez. They were existing simultaneously for a little bit. The original idea for the name was Ashton was speaking to one of our friends about Vsauce videos, and I guess the question was posed of how many bears roaring into a central point would it take to cause a black hole? And it's like a bunch of million bears. Somebody did the math. I don't remember the exact amount, but he texted me that. He's like, what if we called the band Black Hole Bears? So that's cool. So the project was going to be about this one album called The Fisherman's Wife. It was going to be an acoustic folk album, like grandiose orchestration kind of stuff, about a lady whose husband is a fisherman. He dies at sea. She decides to go to the bottom of the ocean in a submarine to try and get his soul back from Neptune, and then she's crushed by the water pressure and turned into the 52 Hertz whale. So we had this like very big vision for it, and we were going to do it at the same time as Ricardo Lopez. And then I realized that this big vision that we had, we could not accomplish because at the time we didn't know anything about recording. We didn't have any resources really. We'd only done self-recording a little bit, and it was me, and it was really bad. So I suggested merging the two bands together, getting new members so that we could eventually do The Fisherman's Wife, but maybe try and make the songs that we already had better, like kind of rearrange them. So that's when we asked Alfredo to join. So then it was three of us for a while, and we were just doing a lot of writing and self-recording in my room pretty much. We did a couple of demos, and we would try and get a drummer, but nobody would ever stick. So Ashton had a friend named Cole who was running a house venue, so he joined, and that was how we got the first like real lineup of me on keyboards and vocals, Ashton on guitar and vocals, Alfredo on guitar, Robert on bass, and Cole on drums. We would have that lineup for about 8 months. Ashton left in July of 2018, so it was the four of us, and that was the lineup that actually recorded our debut EP. So I switched to doing all the lead vocals, and all the songs that we did were stuff that I had helped write, came from Ricardo Lopez. Sunshine Baby was for The Fisherman's Wife, so we basically just went away from The Fisherman's Wife idea originally and decided just to kind of get a collection of songs that we had in some form, and release those. And so that's how we ended up doing the original EP. And we're working on our debut album right now. That's the main focus with the quarantine, but we're doing it, remotely, so it hasn't gotten to the point where we're sending files back and forth yet, but I'm preparing to start sending files back and forth so that we can form some type of cohesive idea. So that's a little bit about Black Hole Bears, working on our debut album. Hopefully it'll come out, or at least some new music come out before the end of the summer. Something's on the way. So thanks for listening.